In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this cool plane movement inside of Unity. So yeah, let's get started. So here I have set up a simple Unity scene with all these mountains and sky in the back. So let's drag and drop our plane here. It looks something like this. Alright, it looks good. So let's rename this to plane. And let's add a rigid body 2D to our plane here. Also let's set the gravity scale to 0 because we don't want it to fall down. And leave everything as is. Alright, so now we can just move on to the scripting part. So let's make a plane movement script. Let's open this up inside of Visual Studio. Alright, so in here we need to make a few variables first. So let's make a public float for the plane speed, another public float for the acceleration or thrust, and a reference to the plane's rigid body 2D, call it RB, and a public float for the rotation control. So let's call this rotation control. Alright. And a couple of private floats for the movement in horizontal and vertical direction. We will set the horizontal input equal to 1 because we want the plane to keep moving. And in the start method we will get the rigid body 2D component from our plane. And inside of the update method we will get the vertical input from our keyboard. Stored it into move y. And we need to make another fixed update here. And here let's make a vector 2 for the velocity, which will be equal to transform.right multiplied by the vertical input multiplied by the acceleration. And now we can add some force to it. Put in velocity here. And now let's calculate the direction. Float direction, which will be equal to the dot product of the velocity and the relative vector, which will be the vector 2 dot right. And now we will have to check if the acceleration is greater than 0, and if it is, then we will check if the direction is greater than 0. If that's the case, then we will set the rotation of our rigid body plus equals to the vertical input multiplied by the rotational control multiplied by the rigid body's velocity divided by the speed. Alright, and else if it is less than 0, then we will just copy and paste this here and replace it with a minus here. Alright, and down here we need to calculate the thrust force, which will be equal to the dot product of the velocity's rigid body and the relative vector. Let's put in vector 2 dot down and multiply it with some value. So let's say put in 2 here, and let's make a vector 2 for the relative force, in the opposite direction, which will be equal to vector 2 dot up, multiply it with the thrust force. Alright, and now we can add this force here, rb dot get relative vector And let's put in the relative force here. And also we will check if the velocity is greater than the speed. And if it is, then we will set the rigid body's velocity equal to the normalized velocity of our rigid body multiplied by the speed. Alright, so yeah, that's all we need to do here. Let's save this and head back inside of Unity, select the plan and set the values here. So for the speed I'll put in 6. For the acceleration let's put in 4. 2 for the rotational control. Let's try this out. Cool, so yeah, it works, but the plane is kind of huge and it is moving so fast. So change some values here and make the plane a bit smaller. Let's try this out. Awesome, so now it looks more like a plane. Cool, but it would be better if the camera followed our player instead of just standing still. So let's add some camera follow script to our camera here so we can move with our plane here. Let's select the camera. Let's add a camera follow script to our camera. And if you don't know how to make one, check this video up here. And once you've done this, you need to put the correct values here. So for the Z, I'll put in -10. Let's drag and drop our plan here. And also I'll make a bunch of copies of our mountains here. And hit play. Awesome, it looks pretty cool. So now we can do many stunts with our plane. And lastly, let's add a trail effect for our plane here. And of course you can add your own trail effects. I'm just gonna go through it very quickly. And place it somewhere around here. Maybe at the back here. Alright, let's try this out. So yeah, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider subscribing my YouTube channel. And until next time, see ya.